Hey there, Guy with Datalytics. And in this video, we'll be going over a custom-built automation or workflow from either a current client or one that was requested. Are you excited? I am. Let's get into it. Hey there and welcome. Today's solution, we're going to be going over how to automatically create a Zoom meeting inside of a Plutio project when a project is created. Now, to do this, what we're going to need to do is set up a scenario inside of Integromat, and it only uses 3 modules. It utilizes the Watch Notifications module inside of Plutio. It utilizes the Zoom Create a Meeting module, and it also utilizes making an API call inside of Plutio. What this accomplishes, once it's set up correctly and it's working, what it's going to do is inside of your Plutio project, create a link, and we can name it however you want or however you would like it, and create a meeting space or a link that anybody inside of the project can jump into. Say you need to collaborate on a project or things you guys need to meet about, but you don't want to have to keep creating meetings every single time or revolving meetings. You can just create a single meeting, upload it into your project space and the files, and so long as your client can view it and your contributors can view it based on their permissions, you can jump into the Zoom link every single time. Now, to do this, what I've done is inside of the API manager settings, I've just set up a simple connection inside of here that talks to Integromat, and I'll go over this in a minute. In the description of this video, I have another link to a different video of mine about getting started with automating with Plutio, and it goes over setting up this API manager instance, goes over a lot of the details involved in utilizing these API manager connections. So view that in the description and then come back to this video when you have viewed that, or if you don't need to, keep pressing on with the video. So inside of the API manager connection, I have my workspace set up. I've got an Integromat webhook address here, and I've turned it on. What I've also done is descoped or deselected this entire selection of endpoints or API endpoints to the project.create. Now, what this allows me to do is inside of Integromat, what we're doing is watching the notifications from Plutio based on this one connection, again, right here. And once we set this up inside of Plutio as a new connection, you'll set it up with these client ID and client secret values. What this does via this webhook, what it does is it allows you to connect into Plutio with an Integromat, but it's also an instant action, so it runs every single time. And this is only going to work on this one endpoint. Now, keep in mind, if you come back and edit one of these and add or take away from this, that same thing is going to fire. So keep in mind that if you edit this, once it's live and working, it will affect your process. So fair warning, once this is set up correctly and it's working to what you need it to do, don't edit it unless you turn off that scenario and rework your process. So once we have it set up and it's connected, what we need to do now is set up a filter between the Watch Notifications module and the Zoom module. Now we do this to ensure that whatever's coming through this webhook is indeed the project.create endpoint, which is, again, is what we set up right here inside of Plutio. You don't have to do it this way, so long as you trust that this connection is proper and that nobody's going to be editing these endpoints, back to my previous comment. But it's also a nice fail-safe that if something does change, only that endpoint or that data comes through for that instance. So set up your filter, and what you need to do, you don't have to name it this way, you can name it however you'd like, but the condition is going to be right here, called method. So put in method, and then it's going to be equal to, you can see it in my test data right here, project.create, and you can also get it from right here, it's project.create, all lowercase. Then what we do is go into your Zoom account. There's really no special authentication or anything you have to do here. Just hook it up to your normal Zoom account. You can set up a topic if you'd like. I have one as well. I have the name of the project, which is right here. And then I also put in here project conference room. That's just a way for me to keep track of the meetings inside of my Zoom account, but you can name this and do it however you would like. I typically use an instant meeting, so it generates it and it's not a scheduled meeting. I also keep this unchecked because I don't want to use my own personal meeting space inside of Zoom, as they are different. Perfect. That's easy to create. Now all we do is this module. Now, if you've never used the API call module inside of Plutio, don't let it scare you. It's not that difficult. Most of this inside of this preview module is already set up for you. So the only thing you really need to do, aside from this actual walkthrough, if you use this module in the future, is just go to the Plutio API docs, which are docs.plutio.com. And this will list for you all of the API endpoints and what you can do inside of Plutio with the API. Please note that you need to be on version 1.8, which is the latest version. And all I'm doing right here is utilizing the files endpoint, family of endpoints or group of endpoints. And I'll walk through that in a minute. So what we do is inside of the Plutio app in Integromat, we go all the way down to here and say make an API call. And again, this initial module is down here as well, the watch notifications. This is the only instant module that we have inside of Plutio for now, unless you're using a custom webhook. So use this. So make an API call. This is what the module looks like when you open it up. Again, in previous videos that I've gone over, I go into detail about this, but in this instance, you don't need to connect to your one that we connected to here, which is just your new project creation connection. You need to create or connect to a general or fully open or fully unscoped connection, which I have in my manager instance way down at the bottom. But right here, this is the same connection. There's just no unselected or descoped endpoints. So now I choose my general is what I name it. All we need to do is go to the URL. And in this instance, this helper text shows you the only thing you need to put in this field is what you need to get into with at least the API. So in their case, they're using businesses, but in our case, we're using files. And what I'm doing, referencing the API doc, is I'm creating a file right here. I'm just creating a file. And I'll show you what the rest of it looks like. So I go /v1.8/files is the URL. The method is post. There's different methods when you're utilizing APIs. The get method, the post, put, patch, and delete. And those are also referred to in this world as CRUD methods. Create, retrieve, update, and delete. So get, post, put, patch, delete. When we're utilizing this method, we're using a post to actually post to this endpoint right here. And you can reference this the same way in the actual API documentation. So post, creating a file. The same way, if you need to retrieve a file or its information, you can use the get. If you need to update a file, put, post, and delete. Now again, you saw that right here in this method. Get, post, put, patch, and delete. So we're using the post method. The headers, this is all pre-built for you inside of this module, so you don't need to touch this. The only piece of this that you'll need to touch is inside this body section down here. Now, in this video, if you need it, I can attach a version of this scenario if you'd like to get this information. But essentially, all you need to do, and I've already built this in my module, but you're entering the information that they have up here. Again, you can see this in the API documentation in the actual request. So entity type, project, the ID, and they have some of these listed for you. What I'm using, the entity type is a project, is where I'm creating the file, is inside of a project. I need the entity ID, which is the project ID that it's creating in, and you can get that by the dynamic data here inside of the flyout right here. So I need the project ID, and where that comes from is right here, again, from your Watch Notifications module in Integromat. So ID is this right here, and this is the unique ID of the project. If you need to validate or verify, go back into Plutio, go into your project, and you can find that right up here. So for instance, this is the project ID, and you can find that by your subdomain. Mine is whitelisted, but you can find that at your subdomain /projects/the project ID. So again, we need the entity ID. Now you need to put in these values by typing them in or copying, pasting, or again, uploading this version of this scenario into your Integromat account. The entity ID, project, and entity type are all written into this body, but you can make dynamic the ID of the project because this will change every time you create a new project. The type, I am creating a link. I'm not creating a file upload or anything like that. I'm actually creating just a link to go to Zoom, the Zoom meeting. So the type is link, and now what it also needs is the link URL itself. So again, I have link, and now what I need from Zoom is the join URL. When it creates the meeting, it gives you this join URL. You can join it right here. So again, every time you go to click into this project and join the meeting, that's exactly what this is. You can see that down in the bottom left hand of my browser, it's got the actual Zoom meeting link right here to join into the meeting. So the only two pieces of information in this entire body that are dynamic are the ID of the project and the join URL from Zoom. The rest is all coded and written into this body of the API call. The title, this is another piece you can change if you'd like. I label mine as join our conference room, but you can name it however you'd like. If you want to put in the name of the project, again, you can do the same thing by the name of the project itself. You could do the name of the project, meeting space or conference room, however you'd like. I just put in join our conference room. Once that's done, your scenario is ready to go. And again, a quick overview, watch notifications from Plutio, filter on the project.create method, create a meeting. You can make it dynamic if you'd like, or label it however you'd like here. Make an API call inside of Plutio. And again, those two Plutio actions are down here. Watch notifications, make an API call. Going over this, we're using the v1.8/files URL. We don't need this. We don't need your actual subdomain. We just need the v1.8 files. And then we're using the post method. Again, the headers have been done for you through your connection. We don't need a query string unless you would like to put one in if you're familiar with APIs. And then this body. Once that's done, what we'll do now, I'll turn this off and we can run it real time to show you what will happen. So again, I'm going to go back to my project section. I'm going to create a new project. Use one of my templates. I'm not going to select any clients or members at this point since this is just a test project. I'm going to create it. And as you see right now, we don't see the file created yet. If the scenario were live in Integromat, it would have created this meeting link automatically. It would have taken about 30 seconds to a minute to complete. But since I've turned it off and we're going to run it real time here in a second, it'll show you what will actually occur inside of Integromat. So if you're doing this in a testing and validation scenario, it does take a little bit for it to get from Plutio over to Integromat. So if you want to, you can either keep running it, or you can then wait to get to it with the webhooks area of Integromat for it to post to the actual webhook. And what we're waiting for is for Plutio to actually send the webhook data here to Integromat to pick up on this webhook right here. What you'll notice when this happens is down in this left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a box pop up of existing data in the queue on the webhook right here. So queue, it contains unprocessed bundles. What we want to do is process the existing one. Again, this is a testing and validation scenario. If it were live, it would process it automatically for you every single time. Process existing. It's going to run through, create the meeting, and create the link inside of the project. So now you can see it's got the meeting link right here. Let's evaluate. So it came through as a project.create like we needed it to. It passed our filter because the method equaled project.create. It created a meeting with my specific topic of test project in a project conference room. Then it made an API call, again, utilizing the API call module, the body of it, join our conference room, the title, join our conference room. And now we can go check. These are all green. That's great. We can then validate and verify on the Plutio side, right there, join our conference room. This wraps up this solution. All in all, the entire build, unless you import it back into with a blueprint of the scenario, if you had a paid Integromat account, takes about 15 to 20 minutes, including the setup of the API manager connection. So not bad at all. Each run takes 3 operations. And that's it for this solution. Thank you again, and I hope to see you real soon. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to come back often for new solutions or new inspiration. See you soon.